clients are hesitant. They're scared to make investments. The trust recession has happened, right?
What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Where's your brain at for forecasting 2025?
So what I'm really excited about for 2025, what does this particular moment call us for to become masterful in? If people are taking longer to buy, then how do we become masterful at building trust and playing the long game?
Why is it so hard for people to pattern interrupt? Everyone just wants the super secret template that's not secret.
I think there's a couple key reasons. First of all,
how do you start to coach your clients leaning into this creative space?
We can't control if we get a good idea at the end of the 4 hours, but you are going to get good ideas. If you keep making the space, the ideas are going to come.
If I was experiencing a trust recession, how do I flip that into an ascension?
Yes. Okay. Well, I love it because this has been...
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We have a tremendous conversation for you today with Sara Connell. She is the founder of Sara Connell Coaching, where she helps individuals with expertise, with ideas, with experience, turn that into a best-selling book and ultimately a thought leadership platform, as well as so much else. This is a wide-ranging and dynamic conversation. However, there are some key ideas that we get into. Especially, Sara projects out our kind of forecast, as she calls it, 2025 and some of the trends that she sees coming. Specifically, we address 5. There's one in particular that I want to tease out at you right now. And that is the idea that we are moving from Simon Sinek's "it's all about your why" to "it's all about your who." Who is greater than why? This is a big idea. It's a core concept to what she is helping her clients achieve in 2025. And I'll be honest with you, I have to agree with her. I have to agree with her reasons why this is such a big trend, and that this is actually what is working in the market today. Whether you're a small business, you're a coffee shop and a community, and you're trying to grow and expand your influence and where customers come from to buy your coffee, or you're leading a large multinational organization, or you're an entrepreneur, or you are an author, right? These ideas are paramount. You're going to love these 5 forecasts that she has for 2025. And especially I'm interested in your thoughts, like around this idea of who is greater than why. This concept really caught me, grabbed me. I'm going to put a lot more thought into it, and I think you are going to love it. Before we get to Sara, if you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, guys, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and you're not subscribed, make sure you do. Leave a rating and review with your thoughts. I read every single one. I appreciate the hell out of you. And if you haven't yet, if you're not in Master of the Close, and sales is an important part of what you do every day, I released a brand new sales course, Master of the Close, where I teach the process that allowed me to grow multiple organizations across the technology, fitness, and insurance industries to scale massively using inbound leads. There is a different sales process for inbound leads. And if inbound leads are part of your process, Master of the Close is a no-brainer. Go to masteroftheclose.com today. With that, let's get on to Sara Connell. Sara, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks for taking the time.
I'm so happy to be here, Ryan.
So one of the things that we were talking about before we went live was, we're still early in the year. We're recording this in early February, and at least I think it's February.
Yeah.
And, we talked a little bit about what's going to happen in 2025. And, that's kind of where I'd love to start. I'd love to start with when you're looking out over what we have in front of us, kind of where we are as a country, as a society, business-wise, marketplace, and you're dealing with tons of clients, tons of successful people. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Where's your brain at for forecasting 2025?
Yeah, I think, it's very easy to be reactive, right? It's very easy to sort of say, what's going on in the world and what's happening in the economy. And there's, we're at a certain, as of the recording of this episode, there's just a lot of churn, a lot of uncertainty. And so I think that while people can feel like, oh, what a drag, you hear things like buyers, clients are hesitant. They're scared to make investments. The trust recession has happened, right? There's this break in trust that people feel in themselves and in leadership and all kinds of things, right? And when I listen to people who've been around a lot longer than I have, and I'm not a newbie to the world by any means, I've been, coaching and being an entrepreneur for, over 15, almost 20 years. And there's people who've, decades more than I do. And when I listen to them, what I love is they say, every single situation we're in is an opportunity, right? We all hear that. It's like, find the gift in everything. But like, really, what if we believe that? What if we practice that? And so what I'm really excited about for 2025 is saying, like, what does this particular moment call us forth to become masterful in, right? Like, if we've got to dig deep, like if people are taking longer to buy, then how do we become masterful at building trust and playing the long game? Right? Like maybe as before we've gotten really good at the mid game or the short game, or and if people are feeling a trust break and a trust recession, like how do we create a trust ascension? And so I think that the people who are gonna, win, as in, be fulfilling and make an impact and make profitable, big numbers this year and things like that, are going to be leaders who are willing to get really resourceful, get excited, even if we have to fake it, because sometimes I do, but like actually say, cool, like what am I going to learn here and get to become really masterful? Because one thing is for sure, that creativity and innovation do not come out of the comfort zone. They don't come out of in general, they don't really come out of the thriving economy either. It's usually when it's hard or challenging. And I don't think this is only hard and challenging of a time. I'm having a great year and it's wonderful. And there is, a lot of people are just really in it. Like they're just in a lot of feelings and overwhelm. So I think this is an exciting time.
Well, one, I love the idea of what if we just acted like everything was an opportunity? Like there's so many things in our life that like cliches or, whatever that we hear. And I think we let them pass by us. And I love this idea of what if we actually just embrace that cliche, that kind of tried and true mantra, because it's been around for a while for a reason. Yet because of that, we seem to like dismiss these ideas. And it's like, why do we always want the new idea when there are like these, 50, 100, 2,000-year-old ideas that seemingly have lasted forever? And we're kind of like, no, those ones aren't for me. I need this new shiny idea over here. It's really interesting. I'd love for you to dig into this trust recession because I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
I can see it. I haven't experienced it in my own business necessarily in that way, but I can see it. And I think if you're watching social media, et cetera, as well as, everything that we just came through with the election, mainstream media is being torn apart, all this kind of different stuff. So maybe break down where you think that's coming from, where you're seeing that. And then I'd like to make this transition into how would you guide someone through flipping trust? If I was experiencing a trust recession, how do I flip that into an ascension?
Yes. Okay. Well, I love it because this has been, luckily, again, in our business, we've seen it less. But a lot of people are either trying something new or in certain, I think, people who are running courses, things that have a less like relational aspect. So I think the first thing, is there a trust recession? Yes, in some industries. And it's not just, Inc. magazine came out and said 94% of consumers right now don't trust ads. Like just don't trust them. Like Facebook ads, television ads, whatever it might be. There are trust breaks with people that either feel like, even influencers, like that was such a movement for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I'll share something in a minute that I think is going to be really big for this year. That's sort of a cousin of the influencer and a way to overcome some of these. So whether you're experiencing it or you're not, we can all agree probably people do feel uncertain and it's harder to make decisions when they feel nervous about whether it's political, economic, whatever it is. So what I think we want to recognize is like leaning into that. Like I said, instead of being afraid and going kind of bunker, mentality, like I'll ride this out till people want to invest more. It's like, what's really the opportunity? And I think a couple of things to create, from a recession to an ascension. One is looking at how to be relational versus transactional. I think a big thing that happened last year, if 2024 had been sponsored by something, it would have been like sponsored by AI, right? Like it was like the year, and AI is awesome. There's so many cool things and ways to play with it. But what I personally, just a choice, don't have it replace is real human contact. Like even in our marketing, I write all my own books. I write, it's like, I write my own emails because people can feel the difference. They really can. You can make Perplexity and Claude and ChatGPT, you could do a lot of stuff, but like people know when it's a robot and when it's a real person. And so I think that people are willing to say, I know it's going to take longer and cost more, but there is like so I think focusing on relationship versus transactional, but then using AI for automation, using AI for systems and many different things. So I think but where does it make sense to be relational is going to go a really, really long way when there was this, sense of I don't want to be with a computer. I don't want to be with a robot, right? I think another opportunity is going to be how we can show people are investing not just in the product or result anymore, but they want to trust the person behind it. So what you're going to see, I believe, is a lot of leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs doing like what we're doing, having real long form unscripted conversations instead of just being behind a logo. So, right, you're going to see Simon Sinek gave a famous viral TED Talk a few years ago called, many of you know it, it was about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think in 2025, people aren't going to buy why we do it. They're going to buy who they're buying from. And so really the importance of personal brand, the importance of being seen from behind, like people having a relationship and inside glance to things like our values and things we care about, even beyond the actual service that we provide or the niche that we're in, is going to be a really powerful way to create that trust ascension. And then there's something called the ZMOT. Like I love nerdy stuff. So you might know this, Ryan. A lot of you listening might know it's like the zero moment of truth. Yep. And it basically says, right, how people make a purchasing decision. So the way to build trust is to give people the 7, 11, 4, which are the coordinates of the ZMOT, zero moment of truth. So that's, the 7 hours of interactive time, which is why long form unscripted or books or audiobooks or podcasts are so important, the 11 different touch points and then 4 different places. So that's interesting too, because if you're like, I'm always on LinkedIn, being on multiple platforms so people feel this sense of you being around you, that omnipresence effect that we hear in marketing. So I think those are some of the things, but the really cool one that I'm obsessed with this year is called user generated content. So some of you may, already, think about this a lot, but whereas an influencer or in an ad, it's very clear someone's being paid to market something, to promote something. We all know what that is. They can still work. But user generated content is where people who are like using your thing, your method, your book, your product in an organic way in their own lives and creating content from that. So the big example that happened recently was the Philadelphia Eagles, I think it's the wide receiver, AJ Brown was reading a book on the sidelines of the Super Bowl playoff game. And it caught, CNN and all these people, what, are you bored? Like, why are you reading a book on the sidelines of a Super Bowl? And he said, this book is what I use to get in the game. This book is what I use to get my mind right, to show up and make the key plays and get us to the Super Bowl. So the book, Jim Murphy's book went viral. It came out in like 2018, the revised. And I've been talking with Jim a little bit about this because it's so cool as a book person. It's what we do, help people, write books that help them do this. And so having someone using your thing in their real life to achieve a result, I think is going to be one of those like, absolutely, it's going to skip the trust recession and build right to trust.
I want to go back to who over why, because I think that's a really interesting take. And I think that, in some kind of marketing and brand building channels, that would be blaspheming at like the highest degree. My question for you is what I've seen, any influential voice, thought leadership, I don't necessarily want to say just like influencer type people, but it's almost as if where we used to wear a pair of Nikes as a way to like express our personal value through this physical object. Now you kind of express your personal position or your tribe by who you follow, who you quote, et cetera. Is that the trend we're kind of grabbing onto?
Well, that's so interesting, right? I don't know as much that it's the the tribe or the community, but now I'm going to give that a lot of thought because now I actually want to look at that and do some research and data on that. What I'm seeing it more is, before it was really curated, it was sort of like, I'm going to show sort of the dream life. And I still think you're going to have that. It's like showing people that what they could be or what they want. I think that's still crucially important. But sort of if we're making a Venn diagram, I think that Venn diagram's with more real talk. That's what I meant, sort of the unscripted instead of just the perfectly filtered photographs, really real, more unvarnished, the less I'm going to show you my beautiful kitchen where nothing's out of place and showing the mess, and not in a way that's distracting, but it's yes, it's the dream and the result that you're going to get from this product, program, service. But it's also is this a real person or is this some kind of BS that someone, because I think again, that trust meter is really high. People have signed up for things and they kind of sucked. It's who is this person? So I think it's more, for me, I think it's less who we're surrounding ourselves with and following, and more, do we have integrity? And are we the real deal? And what is the real deal for each of us? Because values, some people value, here's my Lamborghini and my jet and my, and like that can be really like exciting and sexy and cool. And other people value like, I want to know you're not going to like sign me up for your thing and then not show up. And you talk a good game at the front, but the fulfillment's crap. And so more stories, that's why I think the stories of people using the thing or doing the thing matter a lot more to people because they want like the real peek behind the curtain, not the perfect marketing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, what's funny is you see people almost trying to like jump that trend who have played the My Perfect Life or like I Rent the Maserati game. And then all of a sudden they'll have one where like their hair is messy, but then you're like, wait a minute, but you still put like 6 filters on it. So I don't really like, what are we doing here? Like, okay, I just woke up and their hair is messy and I'm gonna go do some push-ups, but like you perfectly framed it and it's in 1/3 and the light. And I'm like, come on, like, it's just like, and I also think what's interesting about this particular trend, and I'm just kind of dialing in on this because I think a lot of people, it is very easy for people who have not created a lot of content, are new to the game, or are they're starting to realize, hey, I can't run my local coffee shop on just word of mouth alone anymore, right? I need to bring in more traffic, et cetera. It is who you grab onto early and who you start to follow and try to do like that early mimicry, like who you mimic early. It really sets the tone for what you're going to be going forward. And my point in saying all of this is that I think those, we'll call them rental influencers, those like, I'm going to, whatever, like they've become easier and easier to spot. I feel like that's part of what's happening is that you can't, there's all these cracks in their narrative that we couldn't really see before, or we weren't trained to see before. Right. And just we've been in market long enough that now the consumer goes, wait a minute, he's 21. He doesn't have a McLaren. Like, come on, they wouldn't even sell it to him. What are we talking about?
Right.
And like that kind of stuff.
We weren't looking behind the curtain before. We were sort of enjoying the show, and there's nothing wrong with any of it. Right. It's like, but you see someone, again, we're in the book space, right? And as a way to, build the brand and thought leadership and revenue. And there's these younger, sometimes on YouTube, I've seen a lot at the end of last year, they'd say, just, let AI write your book in an hour and make $100,000 a month on book sales. I'm like, that is complete. Like, I'm sorry. No. Like, first of all, there's nothing in that book anyone wants. Like, it's just not, the internet ChatGPT can only pull what's already been written. And by its very nature, then that book is not going to be like, unless it's a super basic how-to, manual, of course. Yeah. But like, there's no way you're doing 100K on book sales. I just have real suspicion. I think a lot of us have our version of suspicion about those things now. And we say, I want to see like the real things. You're going to hear people doing more like what Alex Hormozi calls W's and L's, like the wins and losses. It's like the more vlog style, which is what we're doing a lot more of now, which is like, I'm going to take you on this journey of, here's all the things that didn't work. And I'm going to show you the total fail and the total, not in like that boring, like, oh, my weakness is that I'm a perfectionist, not that crap, but like really going, I'm pulling my hair out. This sucks. I'm embarrassed. This didn't work. I'm scared about money because we launched and it didn't work and I'm paying, like that's actually going to, I think, create connection and trust, as long as you still, of course, can, figured it out and give people the results versus before it was like, it was just fun to watch the show.
Yeah. There are people that I follow that I know are completely full of shit that I just think they're so ridiculous in the shit they do that I just find it's just entertainment. You know what I mean? It's just entertainment.
Exactly. Entertainment. And would you buy from them is the question. And maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, but a lot, especially for something like really high ticket, it's like, ooh, I may not be signing up for that particular mentor if I don't think it, but I will definitely keep watching because it's candy. It's fun.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I keep coming back to this, but it's something that I think about a lot in my own work and with, whatever is, the internet was so new that so many of these tactics, so many of these things that people did, these templated style videos where we're running the same, hook, turn, build, turn, hook, paint, whatever, like, and not that stuff not that those formats are wrong, but what I found is like, if I find someone new and they're just using one of these kind of boilerplate templates that's been passed around forever in the, the D2C space or the ad space or whatever, like I can pick up on that template now like this. And it's not because I've like some template expert. it's because I've just watched enough content. We're 25 years into digital creation that like, I think our audiences have just become more mature and they're able to figure out the bullshit more. Their bullshit meter is stronger and it's got more filters on it. So I think, things like what you described, going back to that Casey Neistat, like 2015, 2016 vlog style video, it's a pattern interrupt because all of a sudden, instead of, the same hook template to this thing that every influencer's watched, they're like, wait a minute, she didn't start with the standard like urgency hook or the she just kind of like started talking to me. Like, that's really interesting. Yes. And I find it's just pattern interrupts. It's like, what is everyone else doing? Figure out a way to do you inside a format that might be slightly different. But and here's kind of where my question goes to you in this is, okay, so if you're nodding along, I'm obviously saying the word, so I believe it. If that's true, why is it so hard for people to pattern interrupt or do different things? Everyone just wants the super secret template that's not secret. Like, it just, why do we then cave to conformity? Like, why is that the case?
I think there's a couple key reasons, and I want to cave to it all the time. So that's why I'm just going to cop to it, right? Like, wouldn't we just love to say, if I just do my YouTube videos like this, hook, what I'm going to deliver, call to action, like, wouldn't that be nice? First of all, it's exhausting to think about with one more, all the stuff that we do as entrepreneurs and we're to think about, and I've got to innovate a whole framework now. Like, I can't even, it's enough to film the content with a template that you've already done, right? Or do a DM in the kind of normal way, right? So the idea of innovation, it takes a lot more energy and we're already kind of tapped, right? Mm-hmm. So I think one is that. The second is it does require creative thinking. And in our world right now, I don't know about you, Ryan, like, I feel like I have to fight for my own white space. And who am I fighting? Myself. It's my own crap, right? If it's okay to swear on this show, I didn't ask, right? But like, it takes white space, meaning thinking time, whatever we want to call it, visionary time, creative time, CEO time. That is space that we got this going all the time. We have a 2.9 second attention span. That's the stat of the average attention span right now in 2025. And so to actually get into a state where we are accessing new ideas and being innovative and creative is actually asking a lot of ourselves, right? So I think there's an undertow of just, oh my God, this is going to be, tiring. It's going to take more time. It's going now, the fruits will be so phenomenal and it's so worth it. But I even know this. I mean, I teach creativity. We're creating creative thought leader assets. And I know how hard it is to do it, even when I know how valuable and crucial it is, right? So if you're not even sure and you're just going, well, I'm going to use the templates. So I think it's the fatigue. It's the also the fear. Like, we're afraid, what if I can't innovate something? What if I'm not original? What if I don't have any creative ideas, right? That's a real freaking fear that we can feel like, do I have creative ideas after just derivative, rinse and repeat, just sort of grab something. I mean, if you have to think of new concepts and film a day of videos, that's a big ask.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that most people who say they aren't creative, we know that that's not true. Yeah. It's just prioritization, right? So like, it's way easier if you want to feel good about yourself at the end of the day to tick off 15 tasks on your to-do list than it is to have this block of 4 hours in the morning or however much time you give it, right? That's free form writing, researching, putting together a script or however you create it. You get to the end. Now, what's interesting is if you get something out of that, right? Let's say you get something out of that. The feeling of fulfillment is 1,000 times X more than the to-do list. But the difference is, and again, this is something that I talk about a lot in my work with leaders, is uncertainty, right? Yes. Uncertainty is such a paralyzing concept to us. So we'd say, okay, I could spend 8 hours doing tasks today. And I know at the end of those 8 hours, I'm going to have this positive feeling of getting stuff done. Okay, I know that. Or I could spend 4 hours of open creative time to try to create a script for a new video I want to do. And I'm not sure if I'm going to love what comes out the back end. And even, like we just said, even though the reward is, 10x, 1,000x more, whatever it is, we just simply will not prioritize that and because of the uncertainty part of it. And so how do you start to coach your clients around this idea of leaning into this creative space?
Right. So I'll just, I always experiment on myself, right? And it's like, I'm the first one to say like, oh God, I have a creative idea ever. So a couple hacks. I'm a big neuroscience person, so I love tapping in. So one of the things that I'm really big fan of is brain priming. If anyone's heard that term, right? It comes from neuro-linguistic programming. There's different modalities. And the idea is that Picasso said it, every child is born an artist. We are all creative. We all have access to what's called the genius zone, right? I believe that about every human being. There is no exception in my mind, like having, been in this, work and world for, I know that that's true. I believe it's true. So then the question is, how do we tap in? So we can't control if we get a good idea at the end of the 4 hours. That's the rub. But you are going to get good ideas. If you keep making the space, the ideas are going to come. You're going to get that inspiration. I call them the downloads, right? You're going to get these downloads, but how do we brain prime ourselves? So one of the things I think it can start the night before. There's many different studies about, you can ask your subconscious mind before going to bed. You could say, while I'm asleep, give me some cool ideas for content creation or my book or, email marketing. And really just start to prime your brain at night to work on it while you go to sleep. And I even go to sleep listening to, different, you can get it free on YouTube, different hypnosis, meditation things that I'll fall asleep to, binaural beats. There's all kinds of really cool stuff. It's all free. You can just listen to that stuff. So you are really training your subconscious mind, who has all the goodies, right? To offer those up. And it's not that I wake up every morning like, writing down, but throughout the day, they'll just start popping in. They'll start coming. In the shower is another, they call it the shower principle for a reason. You're sitting there shampooing your hair. But I use that time very strategically. Like I'll sit there and really say, okay, I'm going to tap in, to like, I'm going to let that be some white space instead of, having a fight with whoever in your head or, whatever other stuff where the mind might go. But then there's even, I record these for all of our clients, but you can use different binaural beats to get into the genius zone. Simply is 2 brainwaves. You want to hit alpha and theta at the same time. We've seen pictures of that probably. And so just making that can be habit stacking. Again, we can have alpha theta stuff on while we're making breakfast or getting dressed, and you're just getting the brain, as primed as possible to get those ideas.
I don't want to interrupt you on this point, but I want to share something with you and the audience. So I'm hyperactive bipolar. So I'm constantly living either manic or hypermanic, right? So while I find myself to be highly creative because of that, it's also like, sometimes it's like getting a download from this huge cable. And sometimes it's like this tiny, So I've been researching a lot about exactly what you're talking about, brain waves, how sounds impact it. I found this app called Endl, ENDL. It's like $2 a month. And it has all these different modes and then the ability for you to actually make your own versions of this. And I'm telling you, I listen to music half as much as I used to. I have chopped my podcast listening in half because instead of walking around the house listening to a podcast now, I just have these beats in the back and I'm like doing shit I hate to do, like the dishes and folding laundry. And like, I got down and I'm a single guy, I got 2 kids, but like, I'm on my hands and knees washing the floor. How many single dudes out there are on their hands and washing the floor, right? Like, it just doesn't happen. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like super productive right now. Let's go. I'll wash the, So it's like, and it's crazy. It's the beat, right? So then I dug into the science of it, and it's everything you just said. The way the progressions work, the way they do it, right? So if I'm in focus mode, it's perfect. If I'm in relax mode, sleep mode, reading mode, whatever. So that's a really cool app I found. It's super inexpensive. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I use it every single day. Endl, ENDL.
I am downloading that the minute we get off this interview, because I'm obsessed with all my little, stuff, because we record them. Like I have, my sister like put it to the music, and we'll do ones for creativity, for thought leadership, for content create. I mean, you're exactly right, because we can create a genius state in ourselves. We think it sort of happens sometimes, wait till you get inspired, but there's so much we can do. And then I think just really reminding ourselves, this is the mindset piece, right? It's just saying like, I write down every day. This is very embarrassing. I don't think I've ever confessed this anywhere. So it's just coming. I'm going to say it. But I write down, I do morning pages, like journaling in the morning, and it's just sort of free writing, getting all your stuff out. And I write down, I'm a creative genius every single day. I write it out. And that can sound whatever, but the point is I'm reminding myself, like I have the ability to tap in to the same mind that tapped through Steve Jobs and, name your favorite genius, your Einstein, like quantum physics has shown, like there's a field, right? We can tap into it. And so I think just reminding ourselves of that and getting excited for the treasure hunt. When does that nudge, like you said, I'm going to get down and watch this floor because that very Zen-like chop wood, carry water is going to bring in the ideas.
Yeah. For most of my life was never a believer in manifesting. And I read parts of The Secret, and frankly, I just didn't like the delivery, and it just was too woo-woo for me, and I just never grabbed it. And then I listened to Andy Frisella, the MFCEO project, and he one day randomly went off on this tangent about how manifesting has been an enormous part of his life. Now, here's this like big, burly, swearing, whatever guy. You just wouldn't picture manifesting being in his toolkit. Uh-huh. So then I was like, well, shit, if it works for this dude, right, then maybe I should look into it. And I did. And then I started looking into what you're actually doing. So I think manifesting does what's actually happening a disservice. So for those that don't understand, the core concept here is you're priming your brain to look for certain things. That's what's happening. So it's like when you buy a new car and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere, or you get a green car and every car is green. You're like, I thought I was getting you this new color. They're everywhere, right? But essentially all you're doing is telling your brain, like what you're doing with I'm a creative genius, is it's saying your brain, look for creative things.
Yes.
I'm a creative person. Look for creative things. Don't look for mundane things. Don't look for things that have already been said. Look for creative things. So manifesting is really hacking your brain
Correct.
To basically put like a special target on the radar for that type of thing. And when you start to think about and again, you've talked about neuroscience and these different things. I think it's so incredibly important we get to that level. So many people got stopped at Secret like me because they didn't love the way that book was delivered.
Yes.
But the idea, what's actually happening to your brain is science. It's neurology. And if you can understand that piece, now waking up every morning and saying, I'm going to be a great father, I'm going to be a great leader, and I'm going to be creative today. Bam. And then you just write that over and over again. Or, I will be a best-selling author. I will be a best-selling author. Because then your brain starts going, what do best-selling authors do? They connect with people like Sara. They work on these projects every day. They block time to do these things.
Yeah.
And also you think you're just you think you're just, really motivating getting things done, but you basically hacked your brain to do those things. That's all it is.
And what I love, like you said, so many people, remember my husband was just like, oh, The Secret. I mean, there's just it just made fun of it. It was just the word, because again, it didn't give the science, right? And that's fine because now lots of people have. But what's really fun is even knowing, because I think our rational brain it needs to make sense of this kind of thing. Instead of just thinking, oh, I'm in the shower saying I'm a creative genius. What the hell is that going to do? But the reticular activating system is even the part of the brain. And it's like a dog that will fetch whatever toy you throw. Mm-hmm. So if we throw the toy of I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I'm broke, that's what The Secret was kind of trying to get at. Then it's not that it's doing some magical thing. I mean, even though it feels kind of fun and magic, it's that we filter out 90% of everything that comes across our radar. We have to, because we get hundreds of thousands of impressions constantly bombarding. So our brain has to filter out most of it. And then what we do, if we're conscious of it, is we tell the reticular activating system, which is the filterer, right, what to go look for. Like you said, if we say go look for creativity, it's going to suddenly oh my gosh, I feel so creative. Or you get invited to do a class, or someone recommends a book and it's really inspiring, versus oh, I'm exhausted, I don't have time. It's going to fetch whatever we feed it. It's just that's what it does. It doesn't judge it. It doesn't think if it's good for us. It just says, I'll go get the bone you throw me. That's what we're doing.
Have you read or heard about Abigail Schreier's book, Bad Therapy?
No, but I'm going to have an app and a book now.
I have read the short form of the book, and I've watched her do a couple podcasts because I just didn't, of all the time I had, but I wanted the concepts, right?
Yeah.
So to be, Abigail, I'm referencing your book. I'll go buy a copy just to get you paid, because I should. She's amazing. But I haven't read the full book yet, to be honest. But I've gone through all the concepts and listened to her a ton. And the idea here is, she basically calls out, and I'm going to forget the year. It was somewhere in, I think, the 80s, where the way therapy was delivered became talking out your problems all the time. And essentially if I'm pulling out her core concept at its highest level, it's what we're talking about, going to therapy and talking about, my wife doesn't love me. She doesn't respect me. I don't get respect at work. I can't get ahead. I'm always all you're doing, to your point, is setting that in your brain doesn't know the difference, right? If you couple that idea with, have you ever read The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer?
Yes.
One of my favorite books. I probably talk about that book too much on this show. It like defined this idea that I could not get my head around, but always believed for a long time, where like, once you realize that your mind, the thing that's talking to you, that voice you hear in your brain is not you, it's your mind. So if you think about it that way, right? So you're your soul, you have a body and a mind. And if you think of the mind as not you, what you're then able to do is program that thing like a computer to do exactly what you want. So if you program it with, I'm broke all the time, I can't get ahead, I can't get a good job, you know, men or women, whatever, don't like me, aren't attracted to me, you know, whatever, I can't get fit, I'm not strong, then that is, the mind doesn't know the difference. Your mind does not know the difference. All it's hearing is these things. If on the opposite side, you said, you know, I'm funny, I'm happy, I'm filled with love, I connect, I grow, your mind's going, oh, well, I guess that's who I am. And that's the way that I should act. And it's like, I just love these ideas. And I obviously I nerd out like you do on just when we can detach ourselves from like, this is who I am, right? And start saying, this is who I want to become and who I want to be. You can program your brain and your mind to do those things just like you would a computer.
It's so exciting, right? And this is what they talk about, neuroplasticity. That's what it is. Everything's revisable. And I love what you're saying too of, do you know, even it goes a step further, which is so fascinating to me, that our immune system, I think it was Deepak Chopra who first said this. So I want to, again, always give credit. Our immune system is eavesdropping on whatever thoughts we're running all the time. Our immune system, our longevity, like you're sort of, so our health, our how long we're going to be on this planet, our finances, our happiness level, our influence or impact or success, whatever, you know, we want to call that piece. It's eavesdrop. Like, so your physical body is eavesdropping and getting the cues for how it should be. And like you said, fit, you know, there's people that have struggled. I can't lose weight. I can't, you know, all this stuff. And then suddenly start working with this piece. And it's like, I didn't even try. One of our team members released 52 pounds in the last 6 months, like not, and she's like, I didn't go to Weight Watchers. She did change her movement and her food, but it came from that level of identity, which is what you're talking about. So who do we associate and what do we associate as me? And she started associating as a fit, healthy, strong, you know, amazing, powerful woman that was, you know, and it wasn't, people were like, what did you do? Are you on Ozempic? She said, no, I didn't take anything. I just, you know, she had a new idea. She was running a different program. Yeah. And that's what you're saying. We run a different program. And that's what's so cool. This is available to all of us. It's here.
I love it. So, okay. So I want to take our remaining time together and transition just a little bit. So I've been listening to this. I'm an expert in a field. I may not feel I'm creative, but I'm believing our argument that I can be creative. Like, why a book? Aren't books like super old school and no one reads anymore? Why would I take this expertise and use a book as the way to capture it and build a business around it?
Yeah. I love this so much because we did a webinar once on, is a book worth it? Right. And obviously, you know, it's like a book saved my life 20 something years ago. So for me, I've got a whole history with that and, you know, paying that gift forward. That was my vow, you know.
I loved your TED talk on that, by the way.
It's like, you know, just knowing that was one of those, like we have these mission moments, you know, in our lives. Right. But here's what's fascinating, because you would think I said earlier, a 2.9 second attention span world, why the hell would someone write a book? So I'm going to just, there's a lot of reasons, but I'm going to give the 3 that are most important to me in this year, just for 2025. So the first thing that's so fascinating is that the human brain, because, you know, I care about this stuff, can process in 1.8 seconds. They see your book cover, your name, your topic. So under the attention span barrier of that 2.9 seconds, the human brain will process, oh, Ryan's the expert on this. He has my solution. We give authority, whether that's deserved or not, because there's plenty of crappy books. But like, you know, we think someone knows what it is. They have a system. So if you're unknown, the reason to do a book is that it's a flag in the ground in your niche and in your industry to say, I've got my unique take on this piece and I have a solution. And because of this trust issue we talked about, someone's going to get the ZMOT moment with you. You know, they're going to have that time and that intimacy because you took a time and you couldn't just whip out a video for 1 second on Facebook. It's like a freaking book, right? So that's one thing. Then what's fascinating is at the beginning of this year, I think Eckhart Tolle released a book with Oprah, Martha Beck, Mel Robbins, and Gabby Bernstein, if people know those particular thought leaders. They all did January books. And these are all women who've had multiple New York Times bestsellers. They make many millions of dollars a year. It's not like they're household names to many people in certain circles and personal growth. So it's like, why another one, right? This isn't even the first book, but it gives them a reason to go on all the shows and all the podcasts and be booked as the keynote speaker for their 6 figures that their speaking fee commands, because the research is 80% of the time people that get invited on a media outlet, a podcast, a keynote stage have released a book in the last year, right? Sometimes it can be longer than that, but so people keep writing them, whether you're really established or you're brand new, because it's a door opener to the visibility and the ability to get back and be relevant. So that top of mind awareness we hear about, like people will invest in one of the 3 people that last crossed their radar. How do we maintain top of mind awareness? The book still has gravitas. It still does, no matter, even there's so many books, but it still does have this ability to say there's something new, something big. You've got a reason to go out and be visible and be top of mind again.
Yeah, I used to talk about this topic. In another life, I used to talk a lot about content marketing back in like 2010 to 2015. It's whatever, it's a different story for a different day. However, an idea that I used to share a lot back then, and I talked about in my first book, which please do not go look at the cover. It's the worst book cover ever. That's a whole story for a different show. However, was time and attention, right? And what I meant by that was like, if you produce something, say a long form video, right? So this will probably end up being 45 minutes ish, whatever the length is. Okay. We could have also done this in 5 minutes, like a clip from ABC or CNBC or whatever, right? And you could have 1,000 people watch that 5-minute video, or you could have 100 people watch your 45-minute video, right? My argument was always I'd rather have the 100 people watch the 45-minute video, because what's happening is every moment, right, that their eyes and attention are on your content, they're building a connection to you and a deeper connection. So it's like you either need, 9 5-minute videos, my math is right, or 1 45-minute video, right? And get to explain your expertise. And to the book, there's all, blog posts used to be all the rage, obviously, 15, 20 years ago, right? And while blog posts can still be interesting, right? How many, in 2010, the guidance was 750 word blog posts. Right. If someone sent you a link to a 750 word blog post today and you looked at it, would you even scan it? You'd be like, there's no way they can deliver anything of value to me in 750 words. Right now, blog posts are like 4,000, 5,000 word, they're like chapters of entire books in a blog post. Yes. And it's almost like we have micro content and super long form content, and everything in between is dying. Does that feel like a good? It's true. This year, it's going to be the micro to get someone intrigued. And then it's long form. Long form is king, queen, whatever you want to call it. Long form. But we need, the micro is important, but the middle form, it's like just almost, like you said, a Substack's big, there are different things going on. And I still think the shorts, like an amuse-bouche, a little hors d'oeuvre of us on YouTube or something, is worth cutting the podcast that you already made, picking a nugget, a good soundbite, having that short, but then the long form's everything right now. Yeah. Yeah. I look at just the comments that I get. I get less comments, and the comments I do get are often just like, good job, or this is cool, or I'm feeling this today, right? On the short form. But on the long form, I will get like epilogue emails from people like, oh my God, here's my experience similar to what you talked about, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't get out of this, and here's what I did. And you're like, oh my God, I made a friggin' impact. Yeah. Look what's happening here, right? But that doesn't happen on the short form stuff. And I think we have to be very careful with how we split our time and attention. And really, short form should be systematized, unless you're like a TikTok creator is your job. But I couldn't be more with you. I mean, to me, books, podcast series, long form podcast series, really well done. Courses are tough. They can work and can be important, but I think we have to be very careful with those. But all this time on middle form content, 5-minute videos, blog posts, short newsletters that aren't really super valuable. All that stuff is dying, and people are unsubscribing, and it's a really interesting time. Well, Sara, I want to be respectful of your time. This has been a tremendous conversation. You're welcome back anytime. Consider us a friend. Anything you have going on. please come back again because there's like a million more topics we could talk about. But if someone's listening to this and wants to get deeper into your world, how do they do that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big YouTube fan. So certainly you can DM me on Instagram, just at Sara Connell, and I'm SaraConnell. I know I don't have an H on Sarah. But our YouTube channel, we're doing a lot of cool stuff over there. And I don't know if you all have heard this, how YouTube is going to soon have what it was like in Facebook in the beginning, where you can really build community and have almost more like what Facebook groups. That's coming soon on YouTube this year. And so it's at Thought Leader Media is where we are over there.
Guys, and whether you're watching the show on YouTube or listening wherever you listen to podcasts, just scroll down into the description or show notes, etc. And I'll have links to all of Sarah's stuff, how you get deeper into her world. Thank you so much for taking this time. What a tremendous conversation.
It's been a blast. Thanks, Ryan.